Hey, Arctic friends and family, I want to talk to you this week about college football. And we are located in Ohio, and so we are big Buckeye fans, and I apologize for wearing colors somewhat close to the Michigan Wolverines today. But big news this week in the world of college sports. The Big Ten has announced or made the decision basically that they are going to forego the fall college football season. There is talks of that happening maybe in the spring. We know that some other conferences have canceled or are in the midst of having the discussion about whether they're going to cancel or not. I suppose that I would personally be very surprised if any of the divisions of college football actually went forward with a season. But why would we be talking about that on the Arctic Express YouTube channel? So here's what I want to just think through together with you today. In Columbus, Ohio, the Buckeyes are a big deal. And during the fall, they bring an immense amount of economic activity to the greater Columbus area. Everything from people buying gas for their cars to travel in, to airline tickets, hotel stays, restaurants, bars, grocery store purchases for tailgating and for parties at the house. An amazing amount of economic spend. And I'm not trying to make a statement about whether they should or should not have canceled the season. What I want to do is simply think through how the act of canceling continues to impact, perhaps in ways that are far more reaching than others would think of off the top of their head. Think first of all of the amount of food that is sold in a stadium on a Saturday afternoon with 110,000 people in attendance. Hamburgers, hot dogs, nachos, pretzels, alcohol, soft drinks, bottled water, lots of things that if you're in the trucking industry, you benefit by hauling from point A to point B, and then from point B to point C, and point C to the stadium for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And now that isn't going to happen this year. Think of all of the food that we would haul to the restaurants that surround the Horseshoe in Columbus. All of the people that will not be going to eat either before or after a game at one of those locations, or the food that will not be bought for a tailgate outside the stadium. People tend to do those things up very big, or they have a restaurant come in and cater their tailgate. There is a lot of freight that gets moved because of something like the Ohio State Buckeyes in their football season. Now, you've got to multiply that by, by a huge number. Because as soon as you don't have football, most universities can't afford to run their other sports programs, because college football brings in such a huge amount of money to universities today. If you're a major university with a good football program, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars, and that actually funds pretty much every other sport that happens. So now all of a sudden, you don't have girls and guys soccer for the Ohio State Buckeyes in the fall. You don't have golf. You don't have cross country. You don't have maybe basketball coming up in the winter. You don't have who knows what, gymnastics and volleyball and it is the first domino that tips. And that first domino of the football season being tipped over is very visible. But the impact that it has down the line is often not going to be thought of. But for those of us in the trucking industry, it will have an impact on how much freight is available, how much freight needs moved. And the same thing happens when school districts decide to either have in-person school in the brick and mortar building or go online. The same thing happens when offices decide to bring people back into the office or to continue to work remotely. The same thing happens when offices decide to suspend all the traveling of their business associates. Then all of a sudden there's airlines and hotels that aren't being utilized that are accustomed to being utilized. So the COVID-19 pandemic, it is a health crisis, but it's also an economic crisis, because as we continue to make decisions, either based out of wonderful motives to protect people or out of fear or out of trumped up numbers, you can argue pretty much any direction. You're going to find sources online and scientists and doctors who say don't wear a mask. You're going to find people who say do wear a mask. You're going to find people who say kids should be in school. You're going to find people who say kids shouldn't be in school. You're going to have people who say the Ohio State Buckeyes football players are the safest they can be if they're at the university with their coaches, with the training staff, under rigid protocols for safety and health and training. They don't have a ton of free time to go get into trouble and to hang around with people who don't know whether they're protecting themselves well from the coronavirus or not. You can find people on the other side of the spectrum who say you cannot ask an 18, a 19, a 20-year-old to go ahead and play football just so that we have something to watch on TV on Saturdays. And I understand both sides of the coin. What I'm simply trying to say today is every one of these decisions has an impact that is far greater than what it appears on the surface. They are economic impacts. There are people who are going to lose their jobs because of this decision. I'm not saying whether decisions are right or wrong. I'm simply saying the economic impact is far greater than what it seems on the surface. And anything that happens in the overall economy affects trucking. Every single decision about some economic area or portion or segment of our society, it has a trickle-down effect into the trucking industry, which is going to continue to elongate some of the economic challenges that we're facing right now. So let us know. What is your opinion? Should college football have been canceled? Are the other major conferences going to cancel their season? What do you guys think? Leave us a comment below. But bottom line is, it's going to affect a whole lot more than just what we get to watch on Saturdays.